wisdom of Sirach, also called Ecclesiastes in the Apocrypha, chapter 1, verse 1. All wisdom comes from high, and is with him. Who can number the sand of the sea? The drops of rain. Who can find the height of heaven, the breadth of the earth, and the deep? Wisdom has been created before all things. Understanding from everlasting. The word of a higher,
of course, it's most high. Everybody who awake see it. So it's not in hiding. It's something that's blatantly in your face. You know what I mean? No, it's not hiding. Come on. People with eyes know it. You see that this is a new world order right here. It's nothing different than like I said before. Just them get tired. Every day coming out and I get tired. Some days like today, yesterday, maybe like this. It's not that strong. We're gonna step up the numbers like I did a podcast earlier on. Just to show the split of all the numbers that basically told us every country basically told us the amount of virus. Person that have the virus and
give it joy and gladness.
what you go understand is basically going for the country locked down. That's what I mean. So even though I tell you that every country is fine, every country in the world
She has built
you understand? Go all the way down to like Sturgeon Island and that's what we do. Even Cayman Islands, that's the case. That's how it is. Every single country.
all the house
Then, with the numbers keep going up on the people down.
fear of a high
all things that shine on the margin. Yeah, we go get
wisdom brings skill and knowledge. Honor that whole person.
trying to match it up with what's going on.
Wisdom is high. The branches thereof long life.
Memories of the pandemic of 1918 loom over the current global battle against the coronavirus. And though it's too soon to say how comparable the current outbreak will be, there are lessons to be learned from that earlier time, as we hear from Martha Teichner.
The outbreak is growing. More deaths, more cases as thousands of Americans begin to self-quarantine.
Parables of knowledge are incredible.
What I say is you're here to see nothing. You don't see nothing going on with people suffering from this so-called virus. They just tell you on the news how you can lose your life. Change your way of thinking. That's what you don't.
If the outbreak of COVID-19 has a bullseye in the U.S., it's Washington State.
Every single news show you the same footage. Why they do that? This is the third live around here. So different news companies, and every one of them show the same scene right here. My line. Wow, this is unbelievable. All these different news stations show the same footage just to convince the masses that the pandemic.
So those cases are linked to a nursing home outside Seattle.
Schools and universities closed. A gauge of alarm here. Washington Fate's death toll continues to rise. Seen in Seattle.
This is how they're gonna lock down the world by keep showing you this right here. People with the mask on. And I tell you already, people with breathing, sucking in the air, what you think is going to do for you. As far as the weakest link is right there where the rubber band connect. You understand? That's where the air going to come from. When you suck in the air, you see where your eyes at. Right there where your eyes at, you notice there's a hole when you breathe, the first place the air run through is not to the front and gonna so-called filter off. It's through the eyes, right where the eyes are. It's gonna go right through that seam and get in there. You understand? You're not doing nothing but covering up your damn nose. That's all you're doing. That's bullshit.
A lot of masks, but not for the
Every time I see somebody in the mask, they look dumb to me. They look like one of them that got brainwashed by the dumb government system. That's all I see them out when I see them.
first time. Substitute Spanish flu for coronavirus, 1918
Very pitiful.
Nothing different. It's the same fucking shit. Everybody dumbed down with the poor, wearing masks. They look stupid. What's wrong? This was a fashion back in the day. They just use the mask as a damn style. A fashion to show the masses that they have a pandemic. They need to cover up, they need to hide. Same damn shit.
coronavirus, 1918 for 2020. And just look, Seattle seized by the Godzilla modern pandemics. The 1918 flu killed 675,000 Americans.
75,000 Americans. The right here, they are all of the Red Cross. You see them bullshit right here that's going on back in the days, and also right now, this is bullshit. Just like now, you can't put these fucking fake tests. It's the same thing. Nobody can put no tests. They just fake the mask and give you some new footage.
50 to 100 million people died worldwide.
100 million people died. Can you believe it? Wow, it's nothing but a whole 100%.
That's equivalent to 225 to 450 million people today. Most numbers are staggering.
John Barry wrote a history of the 1918 flu. He is
We're never gonna stop. Oh yeah. Influence and all that just describe just a normal life. You understand? Normal flu like in the days what the fucking hell said. You understand? Just like I told you about the coronavirus, known as a damn common cold. That's all it is. The common cold meaning is a fancy word. They use that coronavirus to describe the fucking common cold. Later on, time, they tell you it's a disease that's killing everybody. Same thing with that influenza. That was the weapon they used back then.
on the adjunct faculty of Tulane University.
There was a mild spring wave that was hit or miss. Came back in the fall with more than a vengeance. Yes, it came back.
It's the same thing they tell you right now. Those in soccer fields. Can't sleep nowhere. You hear me? Can't sleep nowhere. There's something else that's happening. They were so-called talking about test sites where you have to go to get tested. And you believe that the TV tell you that is secret. I couldn't believe it. They're showing you a side on TV and say, yeah, and show you a crowd of people lining up, and then they go tell you that this is closed. They can't tell you where the side is. You have to call into some people and talk to them, and then you and them reason some kind of doctor. Then they're gonna convince you if you should go on now to go get the test. What kind of shit is that? And then have your identification, your whole belly to show them when you go to get the test. It's a fake shit, 100% in.
Wall with more than a vengeance. Probably 60 to 70% of the deaths actually occurred in an incredibly short time of probably about a year.
All the deaths, basically, most of the deaths just happened in an incredible fast time, just like how the virus just rise up. Last couple of weeks, they tell you it's a couple of Americans having like 16, and all of a sudden it's 6,000. That's how they do it. They're full of shit on the masses.
15 weeks from late September of 1918 until through December, maybe well into January.
In that time, during the final months of World War I,
just a trick for the masses. It's not real. The same way they're running this off right here on the people, and we can see it in the same way they're running on those young people.
More soldiers died of the flu than were killed on the battlefield during 4 years of fighting.
I already told you that's why they use that. It's easier to convince the masses of a pandemic when it's damn disease. You understand? Not war. War, they can never tell you kill that much people because they're only using soldiers for war, and most of the time they're not going to tell you those how the so-called regular people get involved. You understand? This is what they have to do to shut down the whole wide world. It's a world spirit, people. No doubt about it. Just show you that they did it before. They're the one who's showing you right now to let you know that yes, it happened before and it will happen again. That's how it is.
As opposed to the coronavirus, the most vulnerable were in their 20s.
Most horrific.
See the difference? The most vulnerable back then was in their 20s. Now they tell you there's people in about 60. You see what I'm saying? That's how they do it. They feel like shit. All through like symptoms like supposed to kill you like all of these complications. That's just how it is.
Symptoms are like bleed not only from your nose and mouth, but from your eyes and ears. People were turning so dark from lack of oxygen. In the book, I quote one doctor writing to colleagues saying, not tell.
Reading off a script, people take a look at his eyes and take a look at the person who do the interview with his shoulders all up, just like worried, irritated, scared. Of course,
white soldiers, African-American soldiers.
It was called the Spanish flu. That was only because Spain, which was not at war, allowed the press to report on it openly, unlike here. The first serious outbreak in the United States began at
believe this right here. Wow, who's gonna be in this kind of environment?
Jim Funston, now Fort Riley in Kansas, as infected soldiers from across the country made their way to the trenches of France. The virus spread, but the nation wasn't. A year earlier, President Woodrow Wilson had rammed through Congress the sedition act, making it a crime to say or publish anything negative that would affect the war effort.
I told you, nothing new under this storm right here. They do the same thing from back in the day. Basically, that's what they're telling you. They're doing that shit today, just like they used to do it back in the day. Them is the liars, fucking new companies.
Created what was called the Committee for Public Information. The architect of that committee said, truth and falsehood are arbitrary terms, enforcing and idealizing its inspirational value. It matters very little if it's true or false.
Was that a license to lie to the American public?
It was precisely that.
All of them got the license to lie to the people, including these punks that you see on the screen. That's why they get the airtime. You understand, the TV is about deception. If you're not a deceptionist, they're not putting you on there. Simple as that.
In the United States, you had national public health leaders saying such things as, quote, this is ordinary influenza by another name, unquote. At the local level, the same kind of thing was occurring.
With deadly, which went ahead with a huge war bond parade in the fall of 1918, when the virus was at its most virulent. Newspapers killed stories, quoting the medical community saying, don't do it.
48 hours later, influenza exploded around the city.
Because the people go ahead with that so-called protest. Disease all around the city. This government people were doing the protest in the first place. That's what they mean. All fakers and the Nazis. All those so-called presidents, they put on it. You understand? They put it on for the masses. It's just a show. They're dancing around on the world stage. All of them, you know.
result is it's one of the hardest incidents in the world. And the mass graves will be placed.
There you go. This is what I told you about.
Chapter 4.
Where is the grave?
My son, defraud not the poor,
Holding down there, where's the grave?
not
This is just dumb shit for the man.
Make not your humble
100%.
soul
So they
sorrowful.
can use this body shit right here, Charlie Chaplin shit, and pull it
Add
on
no
man.
more
Bang
to
on.
shovels and so
the
forth.
and defer not to
About 14,500 in Philadelphia.
reject
Compare
not
the signs that went up then to now. Notice. Compare the signs that went up then to now. Notice. Washing was invention. Americans conceived themselves when they were
Wow.
He that said the love of the congregation and bow thy
See
head.
them in plain sight.
Let
They
it not
can hide.
please thee to bow down thy
Come
ears to the Lord.
Messiah, you see them there. Shows. You see this shit
Deliver
right
him
here.
that suffereth
Show
wrong.
up on them. That's how you know
Be
the
not
bodies
so
are
hard as
Oh, they thought they were less likely to catch the
fathers
flu.
instead of the husband unto their mothers. So shall you be as the Son of the Most High, and he shall love thee more than thy mother doth. Wisdom exalteth her children, and layeth hold of him that seeketh her. He that loveth her loveth life, and they that seek her early shall be filled with joy. He that holdeth her fast shall
They did
be
what they
rejoiced,
could,
and wheresoever
given
she
what they
entereth,
didn't know.
Back in 1918, they had no idea.
they that serve her shall minister to the
Suffering
Holy
from
One,
what it
and
was that
them
they
that
were
love
being
her
killed by.
shall
To me,
master
that's the
does
most
love.
frightening aspect of the epidemic.
Dr. Jeremy Brown is Director of Emergency Care Research at the National Institutes of
He
Health,
that attendeth
but
to
spoke to
her
us
shall
in
dwell
person capacity.
Viruses will not be
If a
discovered for
man
another
commit himself
15 or 20
against
years.
her, he shall
That's
hear
very
of her.
different. Today we
And
know
his
what it is
generation
that's
shall
causing the
hold her
disease.
in possession.
Brown has written
For
extensively.
at the first she will walk with him by the ways and bring fear and dread
That's
upon
all it
him.
is. Just tell them
Torment him with her
that y'all
iniquity
faking
until
it.
she
That's
may
all it is.
trust
Watch this right here.
and try him by
Something
her
about
law.
influenza and argues that 2020 will not be another 1918, thanks to advances in science.
But if you go wrong, she will forsake him and give him over to his
What is
delusion.
science so-called
Observe the
playing to do right
opportunity
now
and
in this
beware
pandemic?
gates, and be
What
not
is they doing?
ashamed when it
They're searching for
concerneth
the
thy soul.
vaccine.
For there is a shame
The
that
world
bringeth
on earth,
sin,
everything they look
and there is a
to
shame
help
which is
you.
glory
I
and
told you
grace.
this disease is out there
Set
for
no
real.
person
They would never
against
tell you
thy
and
soul,
hide you.
and let not
Dead.
the reverence
Basic
of
treatments that
enemy
were offered were
cause thee
enemas,
to fall.
whiskey, and bloodletting.
refrain not
Our
to
hospitals
speak,
as we know them
and
today
raise
were
a
quite
vision to
different.
do
There
good,
were no
and hide
intensive
not
care
thy
doctors
beauty,
who
her beauty.
really understand
For
how
by
to treat the
speed
very sickest
wisdom
patients.
shall be
There were
known,
no
and learned
antibiotics
by the word
to
of
treat
tongue.
anything.
In no wise
The
speak
reason why
against
you
the
bring
truth,
this stuff,
and bash
that's the
the
reason
error
why
of thy
we got
ignorance.
antibiotics
Be not
today,
ashamed to
because
confess
of
your
this
sins,
breakout.
enforce
Tell
not
us all the damn laws that we put in place,
Make not
and
thyself
all the
as
shit that we
unmeet to a
implemented,
foolish
right?
man,
Because of this
neither
shit right
accept
here,
the person
a
of
fake
mighty.
pandemic.
Secondary
Strive
infection.
to be
This was
put
a
to
very,
death,
very
and
different
the
time, a
Most
very
High
different way
shall
of
fight
practicing
for
medicine.
thee. Be not
But for John
hasty in your
Barry,
tongue,
there is a takeaway from then that still
be not
applies.
as a lion
The
in
biggest
your house,
lesson
nor
from
frantic
the
among
1980
the servants.
pandemic
Let
was
not thy
really
hand be
just tell
stretched
us
out to receive
What are the
thy
consequences?
cup, shouldest repay.
Tell the truth, people, you believe
Chapter
that?
5.
Look at these fakers
Set
right
not
now.
your heart upon your
Telling
goods, and say not, I have enough
you
for my
never
life.
use that word. Let's listen
Follow not
to
your
final
own mind,
word.
and
Truth
respect
isn't told,
walk in the ways
and
of
they
your
want people
heart.
to document.
And say not, shall be
I've
sold for
told
my works.
and more
The
people
Most High
gonna
will
die.
surely
Believe
rebuke
that?
your pride.
I already told you something.
Say not, I have
All of
sinned,
them fake
and what
news.
harm hath happened
Let's
to
go
you.
back.
Tonight, we begin a special series about the threat from influenza. Every year, the seasonal flu emerges and kills tens of thousands of Americans and hundreds of thousands globally. But there's an even graver concern. Public health officials fear the emergence of a new, previously unknown flu virus that could be far more lethal.
Make no tarrying to
Become a pandemic by spreading across the world. As William Brigham reports, it's happened before.
The heart in my heartbeat, yeah. Because of course I didn't have a beating heart for a little bit.
Set not your
6 years
heart
ago,
upon
Autumn
things
Redding
that
started
are dark, for they shall not profit you in the day of calamity.
Lo que tiene que pasar en esa escena
Feeling sick, but she was a 33-year-old mom, really healthy.
el actor no puede cambiar eso.
Right on the money.
Oh, she didn't think much of it.
It was 2 days after Christmas, and I just kind of got a little jumpy, little cough here and there, but nothing horrible. I had texted my fiance, and it was a big jumbled mess, and that's when he pretty much...
The words you texted
Yes, they didn't make sense. Honestly, I don't even remember him coming to pick me up.
Redinger was rushed to her local hospital in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, where doctors diagnosed her with the flu.
My lungs started to fill on fire.
Meaning when you would breathe in, it would burn.
Breathe in, breathe out, it burned.
The flu was attacking her lungs.
It's easy for the masses to
Instead of a
believe
friend,
because
come
I
not
know
in
they tell
for
you
their body
but when they show you this right here, they show you that that's all you need to know. Don't bother to even check something when I bust it because it's just fake. Nobody knows this, just remember I tell you, nobody does this fake shit. That's the only reason why they do it, so they could fit it in the mood to dumb down the damn man.
Filling them with fluid. She was then medevaced to University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, where she was eventually put under the care of Dr. Holt Murray.
The lungs become very boggy, they fill with water, and you're not able to move oxygen from the outside world to the bloodstream.
You can't breathe. It kept getting worse. Her lungs were failing. She was put on a ventilator, but even that couldn't get enough oxygen into her.
It was a nurse who slipped up and made a comment about me dying. And I was just like, what? Yeah, you died like twice. You were on a machine to keep you alive. And I'm like...
That machine, called an ECMO, took out her dark, depleted blood, pumped it full of oxygen, and fed it back into her body.
When it comes to the fucking elite, they never use back their own blood. They're just giving you a seat so they do it. That's how they do it. Holding the damn masses with the face.
Goes through the pump and the oxygenator comes out.
That is a very intensive intervention to try to save someone's life.
It's as it gets. We're taking 5 liters of blood a minute, taking it out of the body, and returning it way, 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 way up.
Days like that are what keep Dr. Anthony Fauci up at night.
2017-18, we had the worst seasonal flu that we've had in memory, about 80,000 deaths and almost 1 million hospitalizations. You do that every year for 20, 30, 40 years. At the end of that time, it's a huge toll in illness and in deaths.
Fauci is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases at the National Institutes of Health. He says while many take the so-called seasonal flu for granted, it still kills tens of thousands in the U.S. every year.
Look at what the regular
Bow down thy soul to Satanás. Be not grieved with her wrongs.
tell you
Come into
something.
her with your whole heart. Keep her ways
Wow, I mean, every year, more.
And when you have got hold of her, let her not go. For at the last you shall find her rest.
So this is the virus. This is the inner core of the influenza virus.
You shall put her on at the shall put her out. My son,
The seasonal flu isn't really what Fauci loses sleep over. It's the concern that a new flu strain emerges, a virus we've never seen before and have no protections against, like what happened in 1918.
In 1918, we were swimming in the dark, as it were.
That year, a new virus emerged, triggering one of the
Let your mind be upon the ordinances of the Most High, and meditate continually in His commandments. Establish in the heart
The worst pandemics in human history, often called the Spanish flu, this virus killed at least 50 million people worldwide and reached almost every nation on Earth.
My son, so not Seek not of the Most High, but the imminent.
600 175,000 people died in the U.S. alone.
So you had this disease that was spread very quickly across the world, that was killing millions of people, and yet people didn't know what it was that was killing them.
Dr. Jeremy Brown directs the Office of Emergency Care Research at the National Institutes of Health. He wrote the book Influenza, the 100-Year Hunt to Cure the...
Bind not one sin upon another, and one shall not be punished. Say not, the Most High will look upon the multitude of my labors.
In 1918, a new and unusually deadly influenza virus swept the globe in a pandemic that we are still studying today.
The 1918 pandemic caused the global deaths of probably 50 and maybe up to 100 million people, making it worst natural disaster in all of recorded years.
But what made the pandemic so lethal? NIAID's Dr. Jeffrey Taubenberger has been studying the 1918 flu for decades.
Most people had influenza in 1918 completely took the course of influenza, like you would see today. But in 1918,
Change not a friend for any good by no means, neither is faithful brother for the gold of a purse. Forego not a wise and good woman for her grace is of gold, whereas your servant
in 1918, a really unusually high number of people ended up having very severe illness, meaning that they actually developed a pneumonia infection of their lungs that started out as a viral pneumonia and then rapidly progressed in most cases to a secondary bacterial pneumonia. They had no way to treat the viral infection, they had no way to treat the secondary bacterial infection. So these people were really left in a sense to suffer this process.
have a care of their body and show not yourself cheerful toward them. Marry your daughter, and so shall you have a
Yes, and why America only has 400
have you a wife after your mind, forsake her not,
why nobody
but
dying?
give not yourself over to a life
From
limit.
initial onset of infection
Honor
to
your
death
father with
by
your whole heart,
bacterial
and
pneumonia
forget not
usually
the
took
sorrows
around
of
10
your
or 11 days.
Remember that you
Ordinarily, influenza is most deadly in the very young and the very old. But as Dr.
Verse 29.
Young and the very
Fear the
old.
Most High with all your
Yes,
soul
first they
and
tell you about
reverence
this
His creed.
coronavirus.
Love Him that made you with all your strength, and forsake not His name. Fear the Most
David
High
Owens
with all your
explains the
strength,
1918 virus was unusual.
as it is commanded.
Is
Trespass offerings
the
and the
deaths and all
gifts
those
of the
ages
children,
more than they had been in other
and the sacrifice of sanctification,
And
and the first fruits
that there
of
was
the
a
whole
very
earth.
high rate of
And
death
stretch your
in
hand unto
people
the
between
poor,
the
that
ages
you
of 20 and
blessing
40,
may
which
be
had never been
perfected.
seen before.
May
Which
you
never been
have
seen
grace
before.
in the sight of every
To find out why the virus was so lethal, Dr. Taubenberger and other scientists retrieved samples of lung tissue preserved in paraffin from soldiers that had died of the flu. Eventually,
whatsoever you take is in hand, remember the end.
They don't have
shall
no
never
job.
be
They're just
ashamed.
guinea pigs. That's why the government
Chapter 8.
pull them out to become guinea
Strive
pigs.
not with the mighty man, lest
with the help of tissue recovered from frozen bodies in Alaska, Dr. Taubenberger's team was able to reconstruct the 1918 flu virus.
Unfortunately, when you look at the genome,
Strive not with a man that is
Virus.
tongue,
Do you
not
believe
wood
that?
upon his
I already
fire.
told you people, it's nothing
Jest
but
not with
deception you get on
lest
TV.
his ancestors
They're faking the masses. What you're doing is
Approach not a man that
a damn
turneth to
deadly
sin,
virus.
but remember that we are all
of the
worthy.
virus, and just compare it on paper to
Dishonor
other
not a
influenza
man
viruses,
that
nothing obvious really pops out at you as to why they behave this way.
Rejoice not
And yet we know that this virus is really virulent pathogenic virus. One of the things that 1918 virus did, it does in experimental animal models, and it is stated to say that is what happened in people.
All of these so-called viruses.
Miss not the discourse of the elderly, for they also learned of their fathers, and of them they shall learn understanding.
El extranjero que está viviendo en Azor, en Israel,
Kindle not the coals of sinner, lest you be burnt with the flame of his fire. Rise not up in anger at the presence of an injurious person, says the God who waits to strike you with his word. Then not a sin that is mighty,
Instead, it is induced a really strong and very unusual kind of inflammatory response. So that the body's response, immune response to the virus itself, heavily to lung damage, probably contributed to some serious illness and death. So it's this very unusual inflammatory response that's one of the key active research focuses of my laboratory to understand why the virus induced that and what perhaps we could do in the future to try to develop drugs that might target or limit aspects of the inflammatory response as a way of treating some environmental infections.
More and more medication. That's what they have. No cure. More medication. That's all they got. Coming with the vaccine.
Open not your heart to every man.
Similar virulence to the devastating.
Chapter 9. Be not jealous over the wife of your bosom, and teach her not an evil lesson.
To investigate the potential financial impact of a global pandemic, AIR leveraged its global pandemic model to simulate a hypothetical pandemic scenario. 1 week
It is not much the company of a woman that is a sinner.
Everything that's moving.
Gaze not on a maid that you fall not by those things that are present in her.
That's the way they're gonna bring you.
It not so harmless that you not in
chose has a similar virulence to the devastating pandemic of 1918, with a return period between 100 and 200 years. The map you'll see shows the progression of the event, including the number of mortalities in each country. The pandemic begins in Mongolia and spreads rapidly to other countries, including Europe.
This is the one that
sit not at all with another man's wife, nor sit not with her arms,
animal or a bat or whatever.
at the wine, lest your heart incline unto her, and desire
rapidly. Because it is
forsake not an old friend,
That's
for
the
the new
only
is not
fucking way
comparable to
it
him.
can spread that
A
fast.
new
If
friend
it's
is
just
at
a word of mouth lie.
Russia, China, Korea, Armenia, Germany, Japan, Hong Kong, Tajikistan, and the Ukraine. Travel restrictions and quarantine measures take effect in the originating country by the end of the second.
The year that she was back in the days, travel bans and all this quarantine right here. They do it people travel restrictions it's not an accident.
Porque ellos son malos. Ellos son los hombres los peores de la tierra.
As near as you can, guess at your neighbor and consult with the wise. Let your talk be with the wise and all your communication in the law of the Most High. And let just men eat and drink with you, and let your glory be in the fear of the Most High.
However, these actions are not effective in preventing the rapid spread of the pandemic. The World Health Organization declares a pandemic phase 6 in the 4th month. Indicating a global pandemic. Vaccines begin to come online only in the 6th month.
As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein.
Estoy loco porque llegue ya un site para que podamos meter este maldito diablo en cadena.
The power of the earth is in the hand of the Most High, and in due time
para que sea el turno del hombre blanco entrar en la esclavitud.
No virus out there, so anything they're gonna give you is doing poison.
First batches are reserved for high-risk individuals, such as those with underlying medical conditions, children, and healthcare workers who are generally considered.
That's what they're doing. Killing off the damn knowledge real fast before it can get down to the ground. They're gonna grow up dumb as a box of rock.
Considered to play a crucial role in spreading the virus. The efficacy of the vaccine, which varies by patient age, ranges between 40 and 60%, which means that the vaccine works for only about half of those people who receive it.
La mayoría de los hombres blancos, no todos los hombres blancos son ilumitas. Porque hay muchos dominicanos que son blancos, pero son israelitas. Yo estoy hablando de los edomitas, de los blancos que descienden de Saúl.
The pandemic continues to sweep across the world, although cases are reported
in all age groups, the very young and very old experience the most severe infections. As is common with pandemic mortality, the virus impacts a disproportionate number of people under age 65. The R0
and therefore the Most High brought upon them
value for this pandemic, a measure of how many new victims a disease carrier is likely to infect, is about 1.5, only slightly higher than a typical seasonal flu.
The Most High have overthrown the countries of the
New victims a disease carrier is likely to infect is about 1.5, only slightly higher than a typical seasonal flu. The virulence of the virus, as measured by the case fatality rate, is comparable to that of the Asian flu and Hong Kong flu pandemics, or category.
and they that love it in honorable things. They that regard not the law are dishonorable. They that transgress the commandments are deceitful. Verse 2. Among brethren, he that is chief is honorable, so are they that fear the Most High. The fear of the Most High goeth before the authority, but roughness and pride is the root thereof. Whether he be rich, noble, or poor, their glory is the fear of the Most High. It is not mean to despise the poor man that has
Pandemic on the CDC's Pandemic Severity Index scale of 1 to 5. At this level, workplaces are advised to consider modifying schedules and rely more heavily on telework and staggered shifts. At the end of 22 months, the World Health Organization declares the end of the pandemic.
Unto the servant that is wise shall they that are free do service, and he that hath knowledge will not grudge when he is informed. Be not overwise in doing your business, and boast not yourself in the time of your distress. Better is he that laboreth and aboundeth in all things, than he that boasteth himself and wanteth bread. My son, glorify your soul and give honor according to the dignity thereof. Who will justify him that sinneth against his own soul? Who will honor him that dishonoreth his own life? The poor man is honored for his skill, and the rich man is honored for his riches. He that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? He that is dishonored will be how much more in poverty. Wisdom lifteth up the heavens, that is above the trees, and maketh them to sit among great men.
They don't want to go to work. They don't want to do shit.
It has killed more than 21 million people and infected more than 1.6 billion people worldwide, or nearly 23% of the world's population. Life insurance losses exceed $45 billion. As severe as it sounds, this pandemic does not represent a worst-case scenario in terms of pandemic risk. To help companies prepare for the full range of possible outcomes, the AIR model offers a 500,000 year catalog of simulated events.
My son, meddle not with
Ellos se robaron esa tierra
después
de la Segunda Guerra Mundial.
Follow after, you shall not obtain.
I had a little bus. I opened the window and it flew
Ellos se robaron esa tierra después de la Segunda Guerra Mundial.
Spanish flu has been what some people call a forgotten power. But it was a huge.
Cuando el Imperio Romano expulsó a Israel y con ese en África y en Europa y en Asia. Los israelitas están en toda parte del mundo.
Global calamity. In terms of number of deaths,
Los descendientes de los israelitas
we're saying 52 million, far greater than we've had. We're saying
the gift of the Most High remaineth with godly, and his favor bringeth prosperity forever. There is that waxes rich by his wariness and patience, and this is the portion of his reward.
Add some little
Whereas he
chocolate.
said, I have found rest, and now will eat the freely of my good. And yet you know it's
Por eso
not
que,
what
que, que, lo, que, lo, que los israelitas dominicanos
50 to 100 million?
en República Dominicana
Far greater than the casualties of the First World War.
no están trabajando.
Roughly around April, May 1918, when, the carnage of the First World War was graphic and horrendous.
Muchos de los
But
que
at the same
trabajan
time,
están ganando sueldo cebolla.
Anything in the sight of the Most High on the sudden to make a poor man rich.
Que es un sueldo que cuando tú lo ves te hace llorar.
Nothing but a TV show. And I tell you, man, I'm sorry for those people back then. Picture them trying to solve this right here.
Nosotros estamos ganando disparate. Aquí viene Esaú con baricot para llevarse todo el oro de los israelitas.
No resource back then. There you go. They couldn't notice that there's no way they could have been out there filming the damn war.
Y tenemos traidores como Leonel.
But at the same time, this unknown enemy is starting to sweep through the US, Europe, the trenches, and it is recorded by the Spanish press, and it becomes dubbed as the Spanish flu, because they are neutral. Well, at the time in the 1920s,
A Leonel para que haga su tratado de baricot para que ellos se lleven todo el oro. Porque ahora mismo el mundo todavía le pertenece a Satanás.
they estimated that maybe 20 million had died. By the late 20th century, that figure had been up to 25 million. In the 21st century, with scientists and historians now getting together to work much more closely, that figure is now being upped to 50 to 100 million people killed.
And a sinful
El
man
israelita no va a prosperar en este país.
take heed of the mystery.
Nosotros no vamos a prosperar hasta que llegue Yahweh Señor Shai y nos entregue el mundo al rey.
Give and take 500 million. Get out of here. That's not sound right.
This virus killed more people in the first 20 weeks than HIV/AIDS has killed in 20
And if not for him, yet for him, there can no good come to him that is always
horrendous. And those mortality statistics are staggering.
We don't know exactly why some flu strains are much more severe than others, and why some of them would be more likely to kill people or cause very severe disease.
What is particular about the avian epidemic viruses is that they replicate deep inside us. When our cells detect this and trigger very strong innate immune response, this leads to an influx of white blood cells and fluids into our lungs, which restricts the amount of airspace that we have to breathe.
The symptoms are very graphic.
Él tiene un balance perfecto. Porque el hombre negro, el israelita, es
Very, very striking. So it said that some people drowned in the flood. So if it was hitting or affecting the lungs, people were spitting blood from their ears and nose.
en la mano derecha en la tierra.
Though he humbled himself and rode proudly,
De la misma manera, en el balance,
you shall be unto him as if you had white
el hombre blanco es el representante
you shall know that
de Yahweh Señor Shai en la mano izquierda, en la que es Satanás. Porque Satanás todavía está trabajando para el Señor.
They got fucking everybody gonna be sick. Yeah, oh, you got the coronavirus. You're feeling pain from the so-called flu. Of course you don't think that you're
Que Satanás está haciendo lo que le dé la gana. Eso no tiene panza.
So one that goeth to a sinner and defileth him.
Porque Satanás tuvo que pedirle permiso
For a while
a
he will
Yahweh
abide with him,
para tocar la piel de
Coronavirus,
Job.
I told you it's 100% hope. I don't give a damn. They don't have one of those so-called flu-like symptoms. Disease or virus. That's gonna
Por eso que Satanás no puede hacer lo que le dé la gana.
If adversity come upon you, you shall
Esa es
find
mentira.
him first.
You get what I mean?
And though he
Stop
pretend
letting
to
them
help
tell you
you,
about
yet shall he undermine you. He will shake
Porque
his
él tiene que
head and
rendir
cast his
cuenta
load
a Yahweh para hacer Yahweh Shai.
People just don't.
Descriptions of people
Chapter
turning
13.
blue,
Bullshit.
He that
purple.
toucheth his
So,
shall be defiled therewith.
Bullshit.
He
it
that
was
hath
really easy.
fellowship with the proud man shall be like unto him.
What I don't tell you,
Burden
did I
not
miss?
yourself above
told
your
you
power
already.
while you live.
I study
And have no
hoaxes, that's
fellowship
what I
with
do.
one that is
All of
mightier
them
and
have the
richer
same
than
footage
yourself.
The same
For how
photo
agree the kettle and the earthen pot together?
real.
For if the one
Why you
is
can't
smitten
get it?
against the
That's
other,
what
it
they
shall
do.
be broken.
They've been doing
The
it from
rich
the
man
90s.
has done
From
wrong,
the
yet
90s,
he
you know what?
threateneth with
They've been
all.
doing it from ever
Poor is
since.
wrong,
This is nothing new.
also.
We already figured it out. They
For
can't
his
do
profit
nothing
he
else
will use
to slide by the truth.
Yeah, and people just dropping down in the streets.
If you have anything, you will live.
Those that
Yea,
succumb
he
to
will
the
make
flu
you bear.
were in the age group 20 to 40 years, which is very unusual for an influenza epidemic or pandemic. And scientists and historians are now still looking to see why.
There's really two ways that people die.
Until he have drawn you dry
You're
twice
supposed
or
to
thrice.
believe this right here.
At the last he will
What's
laugh
wrong?
in his
You
form.
believe in this shit right
Afterward,
here.
when he
You
sees
believe
you,
that all of
he
these
shake
people in
you,
these
shake
sheets
his
backed
head.
out.
Beware
That a
that
virus
you
that
be
gonna
not
kill you
deceived
even
and
if it's
brought
off.
down in thy
Get the
jollity.
fuck out of here.
If you be invited of a mighty
100%
man,
set up from the
withdraw
elite.
yourself
In 1918, they either died from initial flu infection, or they died from an enormously strong immune response to that virus, where their lungs just filled up with fluids from trying to attack the virus that got into their lungs.
So traditionally, everyone sort of said, oh, well,
Yeah, war. That is the virus at the same time. This one is a cross.
But cruelly he
Wow,
will
I
lay
told
up
you.
your
Yeah,
words
that's
and will not spare
it's the trenches, the conditions of the war, and that's why it's so fatal. But many
for you walk into the
Back
peril
in the
of
day,
your overthrowing.
every single one of them
Hears these
got on the
things,
mask.
awake in your
I
sleep.
told you, this is all they
Love
do.
the Most High all your
Hope
life
so with the
and call
damn
upon
arm.
him
think,
for
well,
salvation.
how did it spread so
Love is his
rapidly
life.
around the world?
Question is the same thing we asking about this coronavirus. How the hell do it fly so fast around the world? That don't make no sense. Why every single country got
What
a
agreement
case?
is there between
It
the
don't make no
human
sense.
and a
This
dog?
is bad.
And what
To places that are not part of the total war.
As the wild
I think the
ass
traditional
lion
explanation is
prey
it starts
on
in
the
Kansas.
rich eat up the poor.
Same photo with the light up right there.
As the
Same
proud
photo
hate
again.
humility, so does the rich
Hay 2 tercios de Israel.
A
What I
rich
don't tell
man
you,
beginning to
never
fall
miss.
is
It
held
don't
up,
matter where you
and
get the
a
footage
poor
from.
man being
They have
down
the same
is
damn
thrust
picture.
also away
In
by
an army camp, and then the troops
when a
bring
rich
it
man
over
was
to
fallen,
the
he had many
trenches of Europe.
He speaketh
But
things
there's
not
still-
to be spoken,
Hay 2
yet
tercios
men
de Israel
judge
que
not.
están destinados a
And if
seguir
you see this, if you're walking
faltándole
into a
respeto
room
a
and
su
it looks
padre.
like this, you might as well just
He
turn
spake
around.
wisely and
If
could
you're
have no
awake, if you're
place.
awake, you turn around
When a rich man
and leave.
speaketh, every
This
man
is
Hay 2
from
tercios
Israel
de la
here.
mujer de
You're
Israel
totally separated. You'll be so separated, they're gonna
que están
see you.
destinadas
You get what I'm
So many,
saying?
many
a
unknowns.
faltarle respeto a su esposo,
So that must be
a no
what does
someterse
have not been interested in the
al esposo,
1918
a no
pandemic.
quedarse con la
And one of
boca
the questions is
callada,
to try and disentangle how
como
it's
debería de
been
quedarse la boca la
what
mujer.
the roots have been. Given
The
perfect
heart of a
data,
man
you could
changes
work
his
backwards and try to
countenance,
infer
whether
where
it
it's
be
come
for
from.
good or evil.
Whereabouts
And a
does it
merry
arrive in a
heart maketh
country?
a cheerful
Does it arrive
countenance.
multiple times?
A
Or
cheerful
you get
countenance
multiple?
is a
Hay 2
token of a
tercios
heart that is
de
in
All
chamaquitos
of these footage that
and
they're
the
giving
finding
you,
out
que van a hacer,
parables
then
of
que
the
se van a
words
quemar en el
of
fuego.
the
they will
mind.
never show you.
Como los chamaquitos que se burlaron,
Never
se
show
burlaron
you.
de
Blessed is the
Eliseo.
man that hath not slipped
Y
in
después
his
never
mouth,
do it.
Eliseo le
and is
puso
not
esa
They're never
maldición.
gonna show you the aftermath. They're just
Y
gonna tell
salieron
you
dos
and
osos y lo destrozaron.
and who is not fallen from
never
his
tell
hope
you
of
what
the Most
you have
High.
to go through.
Riches
What
are not
did they
covered
pull
Jehová
by
off
enseñó a
niggers,
Isaac,
after this
and
no
what
whole
coge
should
esa,
be his
ni
man
con
What was
chamaquito.
the end result?
He that gathereth by
Wow,
defrauding his
a
own
million
soul
laws
gathereth
put in
for
place.
others.
Él no le importa qué edad tú tienes,
9/11
él te
bullshit.
mata.
That's how they
He
do
that
it,
is
people.
evil
Wake up.
to
For countries,
himself,
where is
to
the
whom
first
will
place?
be good.
If you understand
He
the
shall
origin
not take
of the
pleasure
pandemic,
in
then
his
you
good.
Hay 2
understand
tercios,
where it's
hay 2
come
There
from
is
tercios
and
de
then they
Israel
give
he
que van a
that
seguir siendo
Was they
ladronazos.
fighting for
And this is a
treatment?
recompense
Was a
of his
fucking
wickedness.
riot
He does
break
Tigre,
good,
que tú ni
he does
puedes
it
dejar
with
que entre en tu
goodness.
casa,
And at
que
the
tú ni puedes
last,
tener ni 100 pesos en la
What's
mesa,
gonna happen?
porque ese
As
mamagüevo
soon
se lo
as
va a
they
robar.
send the masses that
eye,
there's a
he
cure
turneth away
or a
his face
so-called
and
treatment,
despiseth
the
men.
people gonna go
A
wild.
covetous
Those
man's
the
eye
people
is
that
Y
go
excuse mi
wild.
francés.
They need to wake
stop
up.
that in future.
Almost certainly it was a burden.
Ese es mi lenguaje.
That's real. All
Yo
of these
tengo que
photos
decir
that
así
they show
porque
you, some of
hay
them
hombres
balls
que son
rolling
unos
around
malditos zarosos,
with spurs on them.
que están
not some like this stuff right here. It's bullcrap.
Remember that death will not be long.
No real viruses showing, just like there's no real virus going around people.
Originally. But then, we also know that the flu was something very similar to the pigs at the same time. Maybe it's something
because swine is the same pig. You understand? That's how they do it.
Shall you not leave your
so-called flu-like symptoms like deadly disease or deadly virus from animals, bats, and birds.
Who works very closely with birds, or who works very closely with pigs, or has
birds and pigs know it's a bat. Bullshit for the mass.
Mother exposure like that. One of the big, really open questions in flu research and flu public health is, how does the virus adapt from one species to another? How does, for example, a virus in pigs or in birds get into humans and then start transmitting? Then the key question is, how does the virus then adapt within that person to stop being a pig virus or a bird virus and become a human virus?
You know why you just say that? You can never pass on fucking animal can never pass on. No disease or no virus can be human. Let me tell you that. It's bullshit for the masses. It's 100% all they got for the people. You believe in it? Get the fuck out of it.
But to be able to transmit from human to human. And it's probably some very quick
fucking creatures, a human being and any animal that you can pick up. They don't have the same kind of disease and viruses. It's bullshit. None of them can pass on some disease to you. It's bad.
evolutionary process that is going on within that human, and in many cases won't be successful, but in a few cases will, and that's when the virus starts spreading between humans and become through pandemic.
Bullshit, people. There you go. Yes, after the animal passes on, the don't believe in everything they tell you on TV, because one thing you need to remember, they're full of shit. That's it. Once you know that all of them full of shit, that's no truth for you. Why would you take truth from them? It's time to turn off the movies when it comes to truth. They are deceptive.
Stay in humans is regular seasonal.
Regular seasonal food. There you go.
Just people were celebrating Armistice Day.
Say not you, it is through the Most High that I fell away.
Wrapped around the finger once they pull off a pandemic, because you can't move a muscle until they tell you to move. That's what it is. We're gonna hold you. No matter where you at, you're gonna get tighter and tighter by the day go along. That's how it is. They're gonna do it. They're gonna lock you down because it's increasing, and they need to lock down before it can stop. That's what they're gonna tell you. Don't.
But then it resurged, and a far more deadly and virulent strain emerged. So this second wave really spread like wildfire. Third or fourth population. And it was short-lived, so it petered out not long afterwards, maybe 1920, 1921. But it was in a sense short-lived.
What happened was that
this gonna be the same, or this one gonna hang on for a few months. This gonna hang on. Remember, when it's something months.
Cuando llegue toda la destrucción de la tierra, los terremotos, los huracanes peores que la hora de Isaías.
Only give you reality. It's reality that's something that
cuando llegue unos super huracanes.
I'm not trying to scare you, but think about it. If they have your trap off, they have your trap off.
Cuando llegue el terremoto peor
que el
terremoto de Haití de 2010.
How you're gonna be maintaining, you're not going to work. You're gonna sit there and wait until someone send food to your door. I told you people, that's where they're heading with this shit right here. I told you, it's a reset. They have to do it. If you go back and check from any biblical days, everything happened 2,000 years. 2,000 years. Before and after Christ, what did you so far? 2,000 years. Just remember, I tell you, 2000 is a reset. 2020.
Nor the 600,000 footmen who were gathered together in the
20 years ago. You better wait for people. They set it up all the way for this right here to set the new world order in place right now.
Virus continued to transmit among humans. In fact, it continued until 1957 to transmit between humans. And probably what happened there is that the virus adapted to humans. It wasn't.
The sinner shall not
Just adapt to human. That's how the disease go away. You believe that? Wow, something that's killing the human being, killing so much millions of people. Are you kidding me? From 50 to 100 million people, and it just adapted to them all of a sudden. That's sad.
This avian or swine virus that came in and was accidentally pathogenic animals. In our lab here in Cambridge, we study both seasonal flu and pandemic flu from the standpoint of how does the virus evolve and how can we predict that evolution and make vaccines to try to
puedan descubrir el verdadero nombre del Padre, porque el verdadero nombre del Padre es un misterio y Él no quiere que todo el mundo lo sepa.
Artificially evolve the virus both in the laboratory and in the computer to understand what it's going to do next and to make vaccines against those strains that will evolve in the future. So this is the basic science of studying evolution and trying to predict that evolution. Something that nobody's ever been.
That's what they're creating right here. Poison for the masses and tell you sure that's what they're doing.
Able to do for a complex organism. And then working to use that understanding to make better vaccines. On the pandemic flu side, we do a similar thing where we look to see how that virus is changing. That virus, how it changes in birds, and how it changes in how that virus changes in other species.
They neither labor nor are weary from their work.
It's hard to believe that something so tiny could It's hard to believe that something
with all manner of living things
so tiny could destroy so many.
In just 2 years, this terrible plague was to claim over 20 million lives.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst epidemics in history.
As for adults, those born before 1957 probably got the measles because there was no vaccine.
It's another bullshit that they pass off on the masses. And when I was a kid, basically, the measles is just something that passes you by. People, it's gonna kill you, no. It's not gonna kill you. Only the government pass off that fucking lie on the masses and tell you people dropping from measles. It's a bullshit. You get a little rash. And a lot of people got a whole lot of remedy for it. They made in books and herbs. And they get rid of that shit like a snap on the damn finger. Or they can fool the masses with the press and tell you that you're dying from measles. It's bullshit. Nobody died from that shit in real life. Just remember I tell you, you're fucking fake. Smallpox. You believe them? Come on.
Back then.
This list, we're looking at plagues, pandemics, and other scourges of disease that led through the human population like wildfire, killing millions.
It's nothing but hope. They're not telling the truth when it comes to pandemic. They make it up.
The disease permanently scarred those who studied.
We're not necessarily ranking them based on how many people were killed by the plagues, but those figures definitely play into our choices.
There were areas where outbreaks had occurred, but the rat flu was not there to transmit. But nevertheless, they had a bubonic plague outbreak.
Number 10, the third cholera pandemic.
By morning, my father was very sick. He had diarrhea that looked like rainwater poured out of her.
The unlucky victims of this disease suffered through hellish final days, diarrhea, vomiting, and measles.
You see when you're in these kind of countries right here, carrying around these damn dirty buckets to go get the dirty water that they so-called have for you. Of course.
And his eyes are continually
of course. What you think? Come on.
Dehydration.
This is the emergency area where the patient first come. If the patient has severe dehydration is a medical emergency.
The same people do it. The same people coming with
van a
all the
entrar en reino a
medication
través de la
and
reencarnación.
they're the motherfuckers who pies you to begin with. Now they're coming like they're rescuing somebody.
Que la mayoría de ustedes
With the
van a
most
tener que
deaths of
morir.
any 19th century epidemic, the third cholera pandemic began in India and spread across Asia, Europe, North America, and Africa to countries like Russia, where over 1 million people died.
La reencarnación, la verdadera doctrina de reencarnación que la Iglesia Católica ocultó,
On our days, you might have
es
10 people
una piedra de
then 100
tropiezo.
people, then 500 people. One person at 5 will.
Es una gran piedra de tropiezo.
The human being can't grasp it. They never
Porque
gonna
dice en
grasp it. There's
Apocalipsis,
no way you can spread a virus that
él le dijo a
fast.
Juan en
No way in this
Apocalipsis
world. It's only because it's a hope.
que tú te
That's why it's
vas a parar ante reyes y tú vas a profetizar en los últimos tiempos.
However,
Juan
it took an
era un hombre
outbreak of this
viejo.
severity for the cause of cholera to be found. In 1854, British doctor John Snow discovered that tainted water was to blame.
There you go. Water
Ya,
don't
ya
tell
Juan
you
era un
people
hombre
tainted
viejo
water.
y él nunca llegó
You think you need a scientist
cuando
to tell you
a él lo
that shit?
mandaron a la isla de Patmos en Grecia.
They're the one who poisoned the damn water to begin
Juan
with.
nunca
And
volvió
then they
a
come in like they're
profetizar
rescuing. No, we
delante de
find the
reyes.
problem. Because you always have to have a hero in every fake shit. Who is gonna
Así
be
que
the
ya
hero
Howard Shire le estaba
in
hablando a
this fake
Juan
pandemic that they
de
give you?
de su
Is it gonna be the
reencarnación.
cartoonist Donald Trump? Who is gonna be?
Y él dijo,
You need to wake your ass up.
And it was this breakthrough that eventually allowed officials to get
cuando
control of
vaya a
the
Howard
cholera
Shire,
pandemic.
aquellos que le metieron que le lanzaron en la costilla,
We filtered it through cloth.
volverán a verlo.
Number 9,
Eso
the
significa
Asian
que
flu
estos
pandemic of
soldados romanos
1957.
que le lanzaron la costilla al Señor
The World
van
Health
a
Organization.
reencarnar para verlo.
Though it can be confirmed that this outbreak of the influenza A virus started in China, the exact origins of the virus are
Referencia de reencarnación
And I told you,
que la
China is
Iglesia
the most
Católica,
part of the world state. I said
que
that
viene
many
siendo
times.
el falso profeta.
They are a
When a
part of
man
it.
has done,
That's why
then
you
he
see
begins.
half of the world
La Iglesia Católica ocultó
involved with China. When
y
it
todas
comes to
estas
business.
denominaciones
They
cristianas
take everything, they make
What is
every
his
damn
good
thing
and what
into
is
the
his
part of
se
this
adoptaron
The
esa
number
esa
of
doctrina
days
falsa
is at the most
start from there.
y adoptaron la
Because they
doctrina
run the
doctrina
fire.
falsa
contested, with one popular theory suggesting that a mutation in wild ducks joined together with a single human strain to create disease.
Therefore is the Most High patient with them, and poureth forth his mercy upon them.
Why they got the disease,
Verse 12.
the bird flu.
He saw and
Only they
perceived
hope
their
to
end.
One of 3 flu pandemics during the 20th century. This one was the least deadly, with estimated global death figures ranging between 1 and 4 million. And that's likely due to the fact that a vaccine was created in 1957 that helped
el infierno de fuego literal es una mentira.
He hath mercy on them that receive this.
La Iglesia Católica inventó esa doctrina para
My
controlar a
son,
toda la
use not
gente.
your good deeds, neither use uncomfortable words.
Es un método de control para controlar la
Shall
humanidad.
not the Jew
A lot of
assuage
people
the
talking
Greek?
about, yeah, man.
So is a word better than a
I did do
gift.
one of them.
Go,
already.
is not a word better than a gift? But both are with a gracious man.
La Iglesia Católica usó la religión, la doctrina falsa para controlar la gente.
Forever you be sick. Verse 20. Before judgment, examine yourself, and in the
Why
day
don't you
of visitation
describe
shall find
as
mercy.
vividly as you can
Humble
Cuando tú
yourself
mueres,
what
tú
it is
mueres y tú
what it
reencarnas
is.
in the time of sin.
What you
a
gotta
través de tu
understand,
nieto.
because I'm a
Let
different
nothing
kind of
hinder
guy.
you to pay your
O de
vows
tu
at this
bisnieto.
time.
I'm like, okay,
Defer
so
not until
say
death
for
to be
instance, this Bill
justified.
Gates right here.
Before you pray,
One of them
prepare
computer
yourself,
type
and be not as
and
one
he
that
can come up
tempted
with
the
the
Most
so-called
High.
Microsoft.
Think
Why the
upon the
fuck you
wrath
wanna
that
hear
shall
something
be at
about
the
virus
end,
from
and the
here?
time of vengeance, when he shall turn away his
Who would
face.
think that he got that
When
type
you
of
have
brain?
enough, remember the time of hunger, and when you are rich, think upon poverty and need.
He's a
From the
professional
morning
in
until
fucking
the evening,
vaccine
the
and
time is
diseases.
changed, and all things
Wow,
are
that's
soon
so
done
show you
for
that
the
you live
Most
in a
High.
dumb world.
A wise man will fear everything. In the day of
Unfortunately,
sin,
there's very
he
few
will
things,
swear
and most of them are
offense,
very low
but a
probability.
fool will not observe time.
Some big
Every
volcanic
man of
explosion.
understanding knoweth wisdom, and will give praise and wisdom that found
And the first thing I choose
they
tell
that
them
were
to tell you
understanding and
that
saying
all of this is a
became
hoax.
also wise
Nuclear
themselves,
weapons
and
are
poured
hoax.
forth
They don't have it.
exquisite
No te
perils.
They don't have no
portarás ante
nuclear
ellos,
weapon,
diles,
no
Verse 30.
nuclear
darás
bomb.
culto.
They're full of
Go
shit
not
and
after
yo,
the
they can
lust,
blow
but
up half the
refrain
world
yourself from
with
your
one
appetite.
bomb. Just remember
Soy
that all
Giving
of this
your
shit
soul
that
the
they
desires
hope
that please
they
her,
got for
she
the
will
mass.
make
They
thee
castigo
laugh
show you
with
iniquidad de
scandal,
los padres.
blowing up the
that
whole wide
remind you.
world
En los
and the
hijos.
camera
Take
stay here
not
to take
pleasure
it
in
Hasta la
each good
tercera
thing,
y
neither be
cuarta
tired
Gigantic
generación
of
de los
the
earthquake,
things
que
thereof.
asteroid,
Be not made a beggar by
Earthquake
banqueting
and
upon
asteroid. I
borrowing.
already told you what
When you
caused
have nothing
earthquake
in your
is. Them just
purse,
set off
for you shall lie in
explosion
wait for
on
your
the
own
ground.
life.
Pero tengo
And shook up the
misericordia
earth. That's all it did.
por mi
And don't
Chapter
talk
generaciones.
about no
19.
asteroid if you
Por los
got
que
the
me
And
rain.
every
aman,
man
It's
that
just
is
guarda
gonna
mis
be sun, no matter how much
mandamientos.
drunkenness
glasses
shall
you
not
have on.
eat.
But listen to the
He
nuclear
that
case.
contemneth
You've got to
small
say we take it
things
quite
shall fall by
seriously.
little.
We
Cuando tú
budget a lot of
mueres, tú
money, have a
mueres.
lot of
Wine
people
and
say it's
women
not
will
nuclear
make men of
deterrence.
El Señor te
understanding
I'm very
castiga.
glad that work's been done,
Cuando
that
tú
thinketh
reencarnes
and
como
I
tu
rate
propio
the
nieto.
chance of a nuclear war in my lifetime.
moths and worms shall have
Not
him
gonna
to
knock the
tear thee,
nuclear weapon.
Por
and
eso,
a
mira, por
bold
eso
man
que en esta
shall
Tell you
take
doctrina,
thee
glad that
away.
they
cuando tú
didn't
mencionas
He that is
investigate
en
taken
when
to
the
be
reencarnación,
fretted is
nuclear
hay muchos
like-minded,
cristianos que
he that
a mí,
sinneth
not
shall
knocking
sin
them, but they
his
need
own
to pay
soul.
more attention to the
Whoso
so-called Joe
taketh
Biden.
pleasure
porque
in
ellos le
wickedness
creen a
shall
estos
be
malditos
condemned.
fucking idiotas
Being
que
He that
fairly low,
resisteth pleasures
I
crowneth
rate
his
the
life.
chance of a widespread
que no
epidemic
van
far
como
worse
tú
than
mueres
Ebola
viviendo.
in my lifetime as
Strife,
well, over
he that hateth
50%.
Babylon shall have less evil.
Why is he talking
Ya
to
no hay
us?
Curse
You
not
chance.
unto
never get
another
it.
that which
Porque,
is
porque
told
el
unto
hombre
you,
People just
que
like I
mató,
told
que
you
violó y
in
mató a mi hija,
Kardashian,
él quiere
whether
irse
it
al
be
infierno.
so-called
friend or
predicted
foe,
in a
talk
book in
not of other
08
men's
that
lives. And
2020
if ye
this
catch
same
without
virus
offense,
they
Es por
drive
eso,
it
mira,
down
porque
to
hay
a
gente
T.
que
Didn't
quieren
call it the name,
for
que
he
algunos sean
heard
but
and
just
castigados.
drive
afflicted
it
you,
down
and
to a
when your
T. What
time
it can
Pero
comes,
do
el
to
he
kill you
Señor
and
es un
everything.
Dios
What
if
con
you
it
have
can
heard
all
the
misericordia.
the
word,
Él
people
no
make
va a
that
castigar a
know
la
the
gente
violence
así
and
everything.
bold,
una,
do not
por una
hurt.
eternidad.
Verse
They on the
11.
world
If we look at the
stage.
20th
A
century, we
fool
look at the death
travaileth
chart
with a word
of the
as a
20th
woman
century,
in labor
I
of
think
a
everybody
child.
would say, oh yeah, there must
As
be
an
a
arrow that
World War
sticketh
One.
in a man's thigh,
And
so
sure
is
enough,
a
there it is,
word
like
Los
that can fool
sodomitas, cuando,
25 million.
cuando
And
sean
there must be a big
exterminados,
spike for World War II,
It
and there it
may
is,
be
it's like
seen
ellos
65
van a volver a la
million. But then you'll see
reencarnación.
this
and if he
other
has
spike
done it, that he
that
do it no
is
more.
as large as World War
Admonish
II.
your
Los
friend,
Right
sodomitas
now,
van a
World War One, and
reencarnar
most
en las
people,
otras
a lot of people
naciones.
think, what? What was that?
admonish a friend, for
There's
many
two
times
types of
van a
flus.
volver.
There's flus
Y
that
por fin
spread
van a
between
seguir la
humans
ley.
very effectively.
there is
Van a
one
seguir
that
la ley
Only
de
thing that this
Israel.
is the
but
only
not
way they
from
could
his
have put it
heart.
Cuando
out if they
reencarne
use
He
a
that
so-called
través de
doth
las
flu.
otras
with his
naciones.
tongue.
That's the only way they can do
Admonish your
it.
neighbor
There's
before
nothing
you
else they
threaten
can use
and
to
not
get
be
the whole
angry
wide
with
world in
haste to the
panic
law
and to
of
shut
the
down
Most
the
High.
world. The only
The
thing they
fear
can
of the
use
Most
is
High
a
is
flu
the
that's
first step
spreading
to be accepted
rapidly
of
like you've
him.
never
Wisdom
seen
and
before.
And there's
kindness
flus
and
that
love.
kill lots of people.
The knowledge of
And
the
those two
commandments of
properties
the
can only
Most
be
High is
combined.
establishing life. And they that
Everybody
do things
post
that
up for the
please him shall
camera.
receive
Porque
You
his
can
Jehová
see
si no
this one
sabe, es
staring
un
dead
poder
at the camera holding the empty
con
bed.
misericordia.
This one doing the
The
same.
fear
Why
of the
they
Most
staring
High
at the
is
camera
all wisdom, and
holding
all
the dead?
wisdom is the performance
Wow,
of the law.
uniform style
And the
people. Are
knowledge
you
of his
kidding me?
omnipotency.
It's just for the photo.
If a servant say to his master, I will not do as it pleaseth
Photo
me,
again.
though afterward
Widespread
he do
flu.
it,
Eso es
Once
doctrina
in
falsa de la
history.
Iglesia
Well,
Católica.
that is
the
Spanish
knowledge of
flu.
wickedness is not
By
wisdom.
11,
Neither at
65
any
million.
time
We
the
have no idea
counsel
where
of
it came
sinners
from.
prudence.
It's called the
There is
Spanish
a
flu because
wickedness
the
in the
Spanish
saying
press was
that
Nadie va a
freezing, but
sufrir
we have no idea where it
un
came
maldito
from.
fuego por una
No
eternidad.
idea
He
where it
that
came
has
from.
small
And I
understanding
told
and
you,
fear
all
of
of
the
them
Most
sing
High
the same
is
song.
better
They
than
say
one
the
that
same
hath
thing.
much
They don't know where it
wisdom
come
and
from.
Eso es una
They call
mentira
it
law
Spanish
of the
flu
Most
de la
because
Iglesia
Spanish is the
Católica
There
first.
is an
y sus
exquisite
So
denominaciones.
basically, when I
and
elaborate
the
on it,
saying
and
is
admit it that they
unjust.
have it.
Sus
And there is
denominaciones
one
que
that
vienen
It's called the
turns
siendo
aside
Spanish
to
flu
make
because
judgment,
the Spanish
and
press
there is a
See what
wise
he did?
man that
Bautista,
That's the
justifieth
Freemason
judgment.
dancing
mira
right
todo
there with
There is
the
a
glass.
wicked man
You
that
can't
hangeth
fool
down his
everybody.
head
Just faking the
sadly,
mask.
The
but
priests, they were the
inwardly he
first
is
to talk
full of
openly
deceit.
about it.
casting
so
down
it-
his countenance and making as if he heard
Annals
not.
of epidemic
When
history.
it is not
That
known,
was
he
pretty
will
bad.
do thee a mischief before you be aware.
I funded a disease modeling
And if
group
for
that
want
uses
of
computer
power
simulation,
he be
and
hindered
that
from
work is
sinning,
Yo digo mierda
yet
porque es
when
una
he
maldita
findeth
Always
mierda.
so-called
Sotria
funded
es
these
una maldita
places
mierda.
that created
a
vaccines
man may be known by his
and
look,
medications. You
and one
understand?
that hath
How did he get in
understanding by
that
his
field?
countenance
By
when he
creating
leadeth him.
Microsoft.
A man's
What that
attire
got
and
to do with
excessive laughter
science
and gait
and
show what he
medications,
is.
vaccines and all.
Chapter
Pa'
20.
usted
No,
creer
because
en
he's a
eso,
devil
There
puppet
is
that
a
really
reproof that is
volunteer.
not come
usted
with
tiene
You
que
can
ser
take
un
the
maldito
vaccine.
masoquista.
You understand me,
His
people?
wives.
We have to do it.
It is much
He's one
better
of
to
them
Usted tiene que ser
that
un
is brainwash the
masoquista.
people. So
Pa' creer
therefore,
He that
es un
even
confesses
though
infierno
his
it's not in
literal
fault
his
donde
shall be
usted
field,
será
preserved
he
from
has to
castigado
curse.
play his part.
How good is it
Everybody
when you
got
un
to
are
do
tiempo
it like
reproved
he's
to
at the
show
devil's
repentance?
part.
And phenomenal
shall
in
your
helping us
faith
target our
work.
polio eradication
As
resources.
is the lust
And
of
which
the
parts of
eunuch
Nigeria should
flowered
we
and virgin,
work harder
so
on?
is he that
What
executeth
part of
judgment with
Nigeria
violence.
should you work more
There
harder
is
on?
one that keepeth
They lie
silence
to the
and is
people.
found
You think
wise,
they come in there to
and
help
another
you
by much
and help
babbling
you cure
becometh hateful.
diseases. You're in
Some
a
man
world of
holdeth
hurt.
his
They're the
tongue
one who
because
bring
he
the
hath not
disease there
answered,
to
and some
begin with.
keepeth silence
And it's very
and holdeth
natural
his
for
tongue.
the group like that
A
to say,
wise
hey,
man will
look at something like the Spanish flu in the modern day. Health systems are far better. And so you think, hey, that wouldn't be very bad. Well, we tried it. And there are some assumptions we had to make. But what we showed is that the force of infection because of modern transport, which compared to 1918 is over 50 times as great. And so if you get something like the flu, and you look at that map of how in the days, it's basically, you know,
there is an abasement because of glory, and there is that lifting up his head from a low estate.
As far as putting the
There is
days
that
up and
buying
tell you
much
how
for
much
little
people gonna
who
have the
pays it
coronavirus.
sevenfold.
Remember what the California
A wise
governor
man by his
said?
words
He
maketh
said in
himself
8 weeks
beloved,
after California,
but the
gonna
graces
happen,
of fools
half
shall
of
be poured out.
California gonna
The gift
contract
of
the
a fool shall
coronavirus
do you no good when you
in 8
have
weeks.
it,
He know that
neither yet at the end of his
100%.
necessity.
How the fuck did he know
For
that?
he looketh to
It's the
receive
script.
many things
Again,
for
it's
one.
the script. Just like the
Giveth
Kim
little and
Kardashian
upbraideth
and all of
much.
these sodomites,
Opens
Bill
his
Gates,
mouth like
and them
fire.
know it's a
Today he
script.
all
liveth, and
urban
tomorrow will
centers
he
of the
ask
entire
it
globe.
again.
That is very
Such as one is to be hated above all things
eye-opening.
and man.
That didn't happen
The fool
with
says,
Spanish
I
flu.
have no friends, I have no thanks for all my good
Even
deeds,
though it
and
didn't
they that
happen in
eat
this
my
country
bread
too, you know that it's gonna happen
how
with this
often
one
and
right
how
here
many
coming
shall
up.
he laugh to scorn? For he knows not aright
The
what he
opportunity
is to have.
to
And it
do
is
more than
all
just
one until
let it
he
run
has
its
it
course.
and has not.
That's all he go be
Let it
doing.
run
On
its
a
course.
pavement is better than
Just
to
a
sleep
Freemason
with
pocket they put
tongue. So
on.
the fall of the
There's
wicked
no
shall
way
come
he's a man.
An
You wake up,
unseasonable
Of
tale
course,
will always be
he is
in the
really
mouth
only in
of
the
the
last
unwise.
decade. Basically, when you talk about
Verse
you're
20.
talking about small
The
molecules,
wise
you're talking
sentence
about
shall
these
be rejected
complex
when it comes
biological
out of
approaches
the
like
fool's
this,
mouth.
which is a
For he will
subclass
not
called
speak it
antibodies.
in season.
Antibodies are the molecules,
There is that
immune
is
system
hindered from
naturally
sinning
builds to
to
contract
once, and when
disease.
he takes
Today, the
rest,
idea that
he shall
somebody
not
says,
go
oh, here's an
far.
antibody, make a
Where
lot
is
of
that
it, makes it
which
very
breaketh
quickly.
on
That's
you
right on the
with
cutting edge.
bashfulness?
And the Ebola epidemic showed it.
There is that for
I told you,
bashfulness
man, the dumb
promiseth to
people
his
never
friend,
get it.
and
You think
maketh him
somebody
his
was
enemy for
posting up
nothing.
right there with a camera when
A
this
lie is
person
a
finds
foul
somebody
blot
on the
in a
ground
man,
dead.
yet his
That's
contention
so
is
hard.
not
All
hidden
that
untaught.
more people is arranged
Speech is better than a
for the
man that is
dumb masses.
accustomed to
You better
lie,
wake your
but
ass
they
up.
both
That we're not
have
ready for
destruction
a serious
for
epidemic. An epidemic that would
the
be more
disposition
infectious
of a
and
liar
spread.
is
Burn
dishonorable,
somebody with
and
an
shameless
infection
as a
and sit
wicked.
around there and breathe the
The
air.
wise man shall
Bullshit.
devote
Faster
himself to
than
honest
Ebola
words,
did.
and
This
have
is
no
the greatest
shame in the
risk
pleas
of a
men.
huge tragedy. This
He
is
that
the
tilleth
most
his land
likely
shall
thing by
increase his
far
feet,
to kill
and he
over
that
10 million
pleaseth great men
excess
shall
people
get pardon
anywhere.
for
You know
iniquity.
that it's gonna kill over 10 million
Presents
people.
and gifts
Wow,
blind the
we're
eyes
gonna
of the
see where
wise
they're
and
gonna
stop
go
up
with this
his
fake
mouth that
virus
he
that
cannot
they got for
speak.
the masses.
Verse
Is it the
30.
one that Bill Gates talking
Wisdom
about
that
gonna
is
kill
hid
over 10
and
million
treasure that is
people
stored up,
worldwide?
what profit is in them
Wow.
both?
Year. We
Better
don't need
is
to
he
invest
that hideth
nearly
his
what
far
we do
than a man
in
that
military
hideth his
preparedness.
secret.
This is
Necessary
something where
patience
Of
and
course, I
seeking the
already
Most
told you
High
to pay
is better
attention
than
to my
he that
video.
leadeth
All
his
of
life
these is
without a guide.
bullshit. They're not
Chapter
fighting.
21.
So therefore,
My
all
son,
of these
have
shit,
you
all the
sinned?
rocket
Do
launch,
so no more,
they tell
but
you
ask
North
pardon
Korea
for your
launching
former
rocket.
sins.
They just bullshit
Flee
for
from
the
your
masses.
sins
You
as from the
understand?
face of a
They're
serpent.
not
For
fight.
if you
All of
comest
them
too
get
near
paid
to
from
it,
the
it will
same
bite
world
you.
government.
The teeth
That's why
thereof
all
are
of them
as
have
the
to
teeth
play
of a
a part
lion,
in
slaying the
this fake
souls of
Less than
men.
$1 billion a year on
All
R&D,
iniquity is a two-edged
medical
sword, and the
surveillance,
wounds whereof
scam
cannot
like
be
personnel,
healed.
posturing the
Terrified
military
and
so
do
they can play a
wrong
role
will
in
waste
terms of
riches,
all the
lest the
logistics here.
house
This
of
can be
proud
done,
men shall be
and we
made
may not get
desolate.
many more warnings
The
like
prayer
this
out
one
of a poor
to
man's
say,
mouth
okay,
reaches
it's
to
a
the
pretty
ears
modest
of the Most
investment
High, and his
to
judgment
avoid
is
something
true.
that really, in terms
He
of
that hateth
You
to
know
preach
exactly
goeth
what's
in
gonna
the way of
happen,
sinners.
and you
He
know
that
that you know
feareth
the
the Most
script.
High
to
will
avoid
content
something
his
that
heart.
really
The eloquent
Every
man is known
time,
far and
people.
near, but a
Got to
man of
show you that you
understanding
know what the
knoweth
fuck
his
is
slip.
going on.
He that
You know
buildeth
the
his
script
house
like the damn
with other
puppets
men's
on
money
the
is
world's
like one
page.
to
that
avoid
gathereth
something that really, in terms of the human condition, would be a gigantic setback.
Gigantic step back. And I told you already, people, nobody can fool me. This virus is a hoax. And that's why they use it as a mask. They do believe in everything the government brings. We go get into the social distance.
The time for social distancing ends immediately.
What exactly is social distancing?
Tell you what is social distancing. How can you so-called get quarantined? That's what they're telling you to do. Quarantine yourself for 14 days and don't worry about it. I already told you they're gonna update you. While you locked down for 2 weeks, they're gonna update you. There's no way they're gonna lock you down for only 2 weeks.
Social distancing, institute more social distancing.
My name's Carolyn Canusio, and I'm a social advocate.
100% safe that we can see you. For your 33 right here in the name.
Every action that we take and every way in which we can pull back from the public sphere in order to limit the opportunity is an opportunity to save life. I'm wondering if there are just one or two concrete pieces of advice you would want people to follow. I think our lives should look radically different right now than they normally do. I would say live your face-to-face interactions. Work from home. Your face-to-face interactions.
Telling you now on TV, the same motherfuckers sitting around the table, bringing you the takeovers. But if you notice one thing, you're basically sitting far away from each other. Because they're telling you that's you can't live your life like that. It's bullshit. So you come into office. Which one of y'all have the fucking virus? Okay, so none of y'all show you got it, so you stay away from each other. They're pulling the masses. This is what they want the people to live. Divide, and I told you that's how you fall. Bam.
Work remotely whenever possible. No handshakes. High fives, no hugs outside the home. Stand 6 feet or more away from any person you're encountering in a public space.
Make that up right there on the money. Stay 6 feet away from other people.
La defensa antimisiles que tiene Babilonia en los Estados Unidos
face to face. What's wrong?
Para defenderse contra los misiles nucleares no le va a servir cuando llegue esa destrucción.
Restrict your travel from city to city, limiting that to truly urgent matters, and limit your.
Por eso dice maldita.
Period. You got to be grounded by the government. That's what they're doing. It's not a coincidence.
Engagement.
Pues como se alegró de tu caída.
Don't attend group gatherings. Don't go to the theater. Don't go to sporting events.
No more group gatherings. And they're gonna drop it from 10 to 2. What I don't say, people, they're gonna drop. Remember, they tell you no large gathering over 10 people. Now it's 2 people. Of course, it's coming your way. They're gonna do it.
What we're trying to prevent is contact with droplets.
I'm
wondering what you think of small social gatherings. How big is too big? You will get different answers from different people about this, and I tend to be more conservative. One of my sons said to me, if we're quarantined, at least we can still have dinner.
The son said with that wow. So you see how they do it, people? They want you to isolate from people and use the social media to contact you. That's how it is. This is how you should communicate. Just use the social media, text or whatever, so we can still see it. That's how they do it, people.
Eso está hablando de la destrucción nuclear.
Gabriel, that's the antithesis of what quarantine is about. We have to minimize our contact with others. I would say that's the general rule. Limited to what's necessary. Do you recommend that people go outside even if they have limited contact with people? So what I've been doing is trying to wake up at a very early hour and go usually, or to go in very unpopulated places and walk in the woods. I'm wondering.
Go to unpopulated places and walk in the woods.
Ellos se alegraron en nuestra ruina.
Wow.
Eso lo mira que ay, que los tenemos en esclavitud, mira, ellos son estos maritos negros, mira cómo están ahora, ellos están ganando miseria. Nosotros estamos adelante, ellos están
So in the 1918 flu, there was this massive movement of troops across the United States, and that troop movement was the perfect vehicle for continuing the spread of
Same photos again they got for the masses. You see what I'm talking about yet? Wow.
And you may think that it's different if you're just traveling for spring break, but really there isn't any difference between the purposes of wartime personnel needs and the movement of people because they want to get to the beach. We don't want to have
They want you to freeze right where you're at.
a prolonged contact with other humans in a confined space, and what's a flight if not prolonged contact with
So
other
why is the metro bus system still running? Why would you still have up those railroads running? How you gonna isolate yourself on a damn bus. That don't make no sense.
In a confined space.
Mira hacia
Don't do it. If you don't have to do it, don't do it.
I'm sure that's going to be your answer for all of the following questions I have. If you don't have to, don't do it. What about public transportation?
So many people are dependent upon public transit to get to work. There might be some risk reduction practices people could adopt, such as trying to ride at off-peak times. If you are able to walk or ride your bike, do that. It probably is safer from an infection perspective to try.
Perspective, it's better for you to ride. I guess you have to have on a mask and a glove because you are still inhaling the air. And they tell you that virus is airborne. It's bullshit.
Y ese versículo dice, mira hacia el oriente, porque la mayoría de los israelitas, que nosotros estamos en esclavitud, o no estamos en cautiverio ahora, no estamos en esclavitud. Como esto es una esclavitud.
If people have been living with an elderly family member, they should reduce radically their contact with the outside world.
You hear that, people?
Es una forma de esclavitud, pero no como la que estaba nuestro antepasado.
Outside world, so you don't bring the virus to that old
teníamos
person.
que recoger algodón,
Now they
caña
separate
y
the
todo
whole
eso en
wide
el campo.
world. Of course, it's easy for them now to implement a new world order and the masses. Let's watch this one.
Overseas tonight, the International Olympic Committee now considering delaying the Summer Games in Tokyo. German Chancellor Angela Merkel now in self-declared.
I already told you they're going to do it, because in order for the pandemic to continue and look as real as possible to the people, you can't have no damn Olympics. As you can see this marker right here, the next sodomite and the masses been around running games on you forever. All right here, just another man, an old man in a wig.
Quarantine after her doctor tested positive. And in Italy,
everybody gotta play their part. The doctor, our own doctor, so-called, the virus is bullshit.
Coronavirus showing no mercy. ABC's Julie McFarland in London.
Tonight, another devastating 24 hours in Italy. At least 650 people dying.
Ya le está quitando la poca libertad que nosotros tenemos en el mundo con esta maldita pandemia falsa.
This after nearly 8.
This is what they're showing you right here.
Yo no voy a negar que
Hundreds succumbed to the virus the day before. Hospital scenes a nightmare. Disturbing images showing doctors overrun.
Pero ellos están exagerando con todos los malditos fucking números.
You believe that they're coming here with a camera to get this footage right here?
Digan que se murieron.
Doctors overrun. Now 5,400 fatalities.
Para decir que mira ya volvimos de un velorio.
Give you the 11 and they give you the 9/11.
Since the outbreak, one doctor in the hard-hit region of Lombardy saying they are not eating or going to the bathroom during their shift in order to
¿Dónde están esta gente?
They're not eating or going to the bathroom during the shift because they don't want to fucking with themselves so they could catch a virus. You believe that? Because they tell you not to touch your mouth or your nose.
Serve their masks and gloves.
I'm not concerned for myself.
Don't let them fool you. They're not concerned for themselves, just concerned about you. It's bullshit.
The only problem is that I'm worried that if I get sick, I cannot help anymore.
Pope Francis delivering an extraordinary.
Watch this one right here doing the cross sign. Show you it's a damn devil puppet right here in plain sight. They all are part of it. That's why they shut down the world. The Vatican is digging it.
Orbi et Orbi blessing from an empty St. Peter's Square. In Spain, the death toll climbing, the total to more than 1,700.
I'm also in Spain, 1,700. And I told you, I already break it down on the podcast, show you all the so-called countries in line. All of them have every single country got a case. That means every country gotta be involved in the lockdown.
The national lockdown extending for another month. Germany's Chancellor.
Lockdown extended for another month. But I just tell you, they're gonna do it. When they lock you down, don't be thinking it's just gonna be the time that they tell you. It's just for you to comply. Then they can extend it, as you can see the eagle fading away right there in the background. Watch this right here.
Angela Merkel now going into quarantine after finding out her doctor tested positive. The country now banning outdoor meetings of more than 2, unless it is for. After finding out her doctor tested positive, the country now banning outdoor meetings of more than 2, unless.
They're banning outdoor meetings of more than 2. That means you have to be by yourself. You and another person is 2. That's it. You understand? Wow. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be also coming to where you're at, because it's one world government running the whole shit on you right here. So it's coming where you're at. They're gonna break it down. No gathering, period.
It is for essential work, and police in Paris out in force, checking people.
Yes, they're not worried about the virus. All they need is something over the nose and some gloves, and they're good. You believe that people wake up, the police show you. That's 33 numerology show you that it's Freemasonry, the whole fucking shit. And those are the ones who are gonna keep you in line in this pandemic.
Force, checking people's papers, making sure they need to be out in public.
You hear that, people? The reason why I'm showing you this, a lot of people not gonna get it. The reason why I'm showing you this, because it's coming to you. It's that simple. Remember, before this lockdown, you couldn't tell the people that they're gonna be a lockdown. No, that's China. Oh, that's Italy, not America. And then boom, the same thing comes, because they're gonna up the number. And I told you, America is in the so-called plus when it comes to the death. You understand? They got new deaths. They got new so-called victims. That means they're gonna raise the level. Yes, they're gonna close down the country right there, just like you see in Italy. And they're checking your papers to see if you have a reason to be in the streets. It's over now. Once they start doing that, you see the martial law in plain sight. And I already told you, when the smoke clears, a lot of non-believers are gonna see the truth.
Force, checking people's papers, making sure they need to be out in public.
Making sure that they need to be in public. They're checking their papers. Wow, people, that's martial law. If you've never seen one, you can't go nowhere. The whole wide world gonna be on the lockdown. It's from the elite. Those are the people who send it down and tell him to lock down the whole wide world. Everybody gotta follow suit. It might not be at the same time now, but they're gonna do it. Just believe.
Tonight, a major headline from the International Olympic Committee. They are considering postponing the Tokyo Summer Games. They say that cancelling is not an option, that they'll announce their decision in 2 to 4 weeks' time.
Yes,
Tom?
it's not gonna be that so-called Olympics, gonna be the so-called sacrifice for the masses to believe that it's nothing real. And the kids on. That's the only reason why they're doing it.
Major developments all over the globe tonight. Hi, everyone.
Let's continue. This one right here. Let's get into it.
This morning, some good news from Tom Hanks and his wife Rita Wilson.
Remember what I tell you about this character right here? What did I tell you? I said he's too old. Remember, they tell you it's the old people that dying from the coronavirus. Once you tell me that this guy have it, I expect him to fall. Just like all those senior citizens that you're telling us dying. Why is he still living with this old back right there, laughing at the masses? You believe they got the coronavirus, that they're selling it, killing the masses? No, people. They lie to you. It's just a hope. They have to use these puppets that you know and believe in. And of course, yes, they're good now.
Battling coronavirus in Australia. The star updated his fans, tweeting 2 weeks after our first symptoms, and we feel better.
There you go, people. 2 weeks after the first symptoms, they feel better with these 9 and 6s. That's how they do it. And of course, they are Twitter tweeting. What do you think, people? What I tell you about Twitter is a propaganda network. And you know it's propaganda they're running right now. Of course, with the coronavirus. You're gonna see nothing but
Sunday, sheltering in place works like this. You don't give it to him.
Shelter in place, it works, people. They didn't get no fucking treatment, they didn't get no cure. Just isolation from the rest of the people. And there you go. They're well now. You believe it? Let's go back.
After our first symptoms, and we feel better. Thanks from Sunday, sheltering in place works like this. You don't give it to anyone, you don't get it from anyone.
You don't give it to anybody, you don't get it from anyone. What kind of shit is that if you already have it and you're isolating? The only thing you're avoiding is give it to other people. But how the fuck did you get cured? What kind of treatment did you take? This is bullshit.
Wilson captured some of what she called quarantine stir crazy, rapping to Naughty by Nature's 1992 hit Hip Hop Perece.
Algunos se
Where
domitan
you
la
think
mano
that come
izquierda
from? That's why they
para
never
que
leave it
crean, para
alone.
que ellos puedan
They're never
crear
gonna forget the music
los misiles
that was put on
nucleares.
by the elites. They're gonna bring it to you, and of course this one
Y
perfect
esos misiles
opportunity
nucleares no
to tell the masses
se
to stay at
crearon en
home
vano.
and listen music. Come on.
Hey, ho, hey, ho. It comes as other stars battling coronavirus are sharing their story.
All of them is fake, 100%. That's why it's not the people around you having the disease. It's these sodomites that are trying to tell you to stay off the road and stay home.
Bravo's Andy Cohen posted this on Instagram. After a few days of self-quarantine and not feeling great, I have tested positive for
corona. It's self-quarantine because it wasn't feeling great. So it's self-house arrest. And I already told you it's a fancy word for house arrest. That damn quarantine, yes. So it's telling the masses, don't feel bad, just go in quarantine. Make it easy for the government to lock your ass down.
Actor Idris Elba, who tested.
There you go again. So this sodomite involved in lying to the masses also.
I have tested positive for coronavirus. Actor Idris Elba, who tested positive for the disease lab.
All publicity for these sodomites is good publicity. So now they're telling you, remember, they want you to think that the coronavirus is real. So instead of you worrying about is it real or not, you worry about the drama that it brings. Watch this right here.
Tweet got slammed on social media for not isolating himself away from his wife Sabrina.
He got slammed on social media for not isolating himself from the so-called Sabrina. A man in a drag. Both of them is two fake people on the masses. But what is this about this? Both of them so-called have it. But yes, he basically tell you that the woman don't have it and he don't know because she didn't get tested, but she was hanging out with him, and all of a sudden it's a controversy. I told you, nothing but bullshit to distract the masses from the fake virus.
She too has been diagnosed with the virus.
Diagnosed with the virus, the diagnosed with the Adam's apple in the damn neck also. Huh? And this one diagnosed with the damn Benopete. Bam on.
The couple explained their decision in an online interview with Oprah.
Online interview with Oprah. Show you that they could have skipped Oprah in the all orange for Freemasonry.
Recorded it. It certainly recorded in that time period as well. So, I think, people were right to have highlighted that, spatial distance is important. We weren't thinking about that specifically.
You didn't think about that, but what was you preaching on that fucking video? The same shit, social distancing, and you wasn't thinking about it? That's what you was preaching on the damn video. I already did it and break it down. You was preaching the same social distancing, but you wasn't thinking about it.